Frenzy Podcast.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Nick from the Nerd Frenzy Podcast, and today we are talking about Harry Potter. And today we have a very special guest, Kyler, everyone. And then Keaton. How's it going, guys?
Good. Hello. Happy to be here.
Good, good. So, Kyler, you just read all the books recently. How long did it take you to read all 7 of the books?
She started, but
I read
she had to borrow the first 2 from the library, and then she got the whole series for Christmas, and she finished 3 through 7 by mid-February.
So Kyler, how long did it take you to finish like a book? Like, was that like a 2-day situation, 3-day?
It was I Love to Read month, and I wanted to get a bunch of words for the month. And so I was reading the 6th one, and I was so close to finishing that I thought maybe I could just get the 7th one done in over the weekend. So I finished the sixth one, and I got the 7th one done in 2 days. But it took me a week or 2 to finish the first one.
It took you a few months to read them all. Most people it actually takes, I'd say most people it probably takes 5-6 months just to read one of them. So that first of all, that's the crazy achievement in itself, and that's awesome that you just fell in love with books so quickly, because my kids they won't touch a book. It sucks. I've tried with comic books, with everything. And when Keaton was telling me that you're reading, I was so excited. And then when she told me you're reading all the Harry Potter books, I mean, that's easily my favorite book too. And it's Odyssey's as well. And then I found out that you read them so quickly, and I'm thinking, well, I want to talk to you about this, obviously. So thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. If you had to pick probably your favorite character and your least favorite character be?
I think my favorite character might be Molly Weasley. I liked her because in the last one, whenever Bellatrix is
I know what you're talking about.
going against Ginny, Molly's like, "That's my daughter," and at first she's losing the battle, and then she like turns Bellatrix into stone, and Bellatrix withers away.
The actor who plays Bellatrix, I'm a huge fan of her, Helena Bonham Carter. Keaton, you know all about her in all the Tim Burton movies. Yeah, she's awesome. But
Yeah, she's a pretty cool character too.
and I was in a weird way when that part happened, Kyler. Even though I was so happy because Bellatrix just killed, was it Fred?
Fred.
Fred just got done killing Fred, and I remember thinking, well, you brat, and then all of a sudden she throws it out there, Ripley style from Aliens, and she's just like, you, and then she just says it, and it's like the only bad word in the whole movie. Where unless like you want to call like, oh, nibble wibbles, and then Hogwarts, that means like something really bad, like the middle finger or something like that. But I remember that was an awesome part. And there's one cool thing that I love about Harry Potter in general is not only is it written very well and they describe the characters really well, but the best thing about the books that I think that I found the most fascinating, Kyler and Keaton, is how it creates a world that you literally think about. Like, it's actually it painted it so well, you can see the imagery in your head and you want to live there. Odyssey, we were having a heart to heart a while back, and she said she wants her heaven to be like Harry Potter world. And I'm thinking that's not a bad version of heaven. I mean, if you get to pick your own. So
A thought that went into not just the characters, but like you said, the entire world, the lingo, the bad words, the different food and drinks that they have, the spells, like all of the different, muggles and witches and wizards. I mean, the whole world and how she seamlessly made it fit into our world to where it could possibly exist. You know what I mean? So it's
oh yeah, and honestly, guys, the only complaint I have about the movies, and of course, no complaint of the books because the books are the books. But the only complaint I have about the movies is that they weren't longer. And I know that sounds like a ha ha ha, but no, seriously though, because there was so much amazing details, or not even details, completely like stories almost written off completely. Like Neville Longbottom's story was a really good one, but sadly, due to time restraints, they got rid of the whole idea that he was kind of part of the prophecy too, and his mom and dad could have done the same thing and caused him to be the chosen one. And cool enough story about him is he started off in this whole story as a just
Like,
weak.
yeah, nobody really liked him. None of the Slytherins did, anyway.
Well, seriously, well, the first time you see him is he's getting beat up by three of the guys, and that's when Harry, Hermione, and Ron come over to his safety, and that's when we first meet him as being kind of this kind of weak, like, oh no, and then you find out that the reason why he's that way is because he lived kind of a crappy life himself. He was adopted by his grandma, and she was just kind of a stern, mean old woman who wanted nothing to do with the wizard life, just like Harry Potter. And their story arc kind of has the same parallels. It's just they don't
Yeah.
really show it too much in the movie because of time things, and I don't knock him for that because I understand. Neville Longbottom is a really good character, but it's one of those things. If you did a TV show where let's say one season is one book, I think that would be
Uh,
amore. But
yeah, and I think the only time that you really there's a couple times he stands out. In the fourth one, he helps with the challenge. There's a couple times he stands up to his friends, which is why they win the the cup the first year. But it was a tearful moment for me when we find out that Harry died and he's in Hagrid's arms and
mm,
Neville's giving a speech saying Harry's in here.
mm,
We're strong. We're all, like that long speech he gave that I'm like, ugh,
yeah,
Neville.
And without Neville, none of the last Horcrux wouldn't have been destroyed.
yep. Because
Oh,
he,
that's right.
he, he killed he killed Nagini. Yeah.
Nagini was about to get Ron and Hermione.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
were they kind of had given up at that point. Oh my gosh, just it was really cool because when I was a kid, I started reading the books and I was the same age as Harry Potter. So he had his 11th birthday. I was really close because I was turning 11 a few months after I watched the first movie.
Ah,
So I was really close in age because I think the first movie came out in 2001, I want to say.
that sounds right. 2000,
But
2001. Yeah.
I got to read all the books and then I had to wait for the last one or two to come out. I can't remember. But I had the luxury of reading the books before I watched the movies, but it's been 20 years almost since I've read the books. I've read the first one recently. I was going to read them with Kyler, but she got so far ahead of me that I started getting rather discouraged.
She's still on the second one.
Oh, that will happen. Yeah, it's whenever Alice gets reading, she goes for it, and she's reading the Flowers in the Attic.
Another thing about Neville is that he kept the DA going for a while.
Oh, that's right.
Because whenever Harry, Ron, and Hermione were still hiding from Voldemort and they went to Aberforth, Neville came and he told them, like, the DA's still going. Here's a tunnel for you to get in and get out. And since Snape was the headmaster, everyone thought Snape was the bad guy. And so they made a way where they could get in and out because there was no way.
Oh, that's right. I
His
like that you call it
Dementors were everywhere.
the DA. It took
I
me a
know
second to go, oh, yeah.
Dumbledore's army. Yeah, no, yeah, that's what Dumbledore's army. Everyone, that's and they had to create that, of course, because Umbridge became the headmaster, and she was crooked. She was oh oh, she was so annoying. Her toad-like expression, but she was doing that thing, and so they're like, hey, we're not going to be get taught by Defense Against the Dark Arts master, so I guess we're going to have to teach ourselves, and then that's that whole thing, and that's when you see also Neville Longbottom. he goes from his typical to you start to see like he starts picking it up like as quick as like Hermione is, and you start
Yeah.
understanding like, oh, you're worth something, man. And it's funny because Harry Potter himself was never even very good at that whole thing.
Neville was actually learning it quicker than Hermione.
Neville Longbottom was a good character. They didn't really show him much in the movies. That's fine. I get it. But he got to do a lot of cool stuff. But there are so many cool things I want to talk about with Harry Potter with you guys. And one of them is how Voldemort himself, like most of these people who tried these things, they did it no more than one time. And this is the guy who figures out how to do it 7 times. And the cool thing about how it kind of every single time he did it, how it would take away from him, and he started becoming more snake-like, and you start and it's like taking a piece of his soul away from him too, and he starts being this actual serpent-like being, and the villain, of course, Ralph Fiennes is already he's one of the most established, amazing actors we have out there. So when I found he was going to do it, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that is perfect. And he almost didn't even do it, but then his nieces and nephews, funny enough, said, "Hey, this is Harry Potter. I don't know if you know about this, Uncle, but it's a big deal." And then he gets involved, and he finds out, oh, there's a lot of big people attached to
Wow.
it. So
I didn't know that story.
It was only when my sister, who has children, said, "Don't you realise what they're asking you to do is extraordinary?" And then I took it a bit more seriously.
like I've read many books in my life, and none of them have painted a picture in quite a degree, at least in my opinion, as J.K. Rowling has done. So I bow down to her in terms of doing maybe the best form of literature I've ever read. But then when they turn into the movies, and these movies are fantastic too. That's a plus, because that's very rare for something. Typically, you have, which I'm not saying that necessarily Twilight was written well in the first place, but you have certain elements that are kind of silly and whatnot. But with Harry Potter, I said the only complaint I had about the movies is they should have been longer, and I mean that because there was a lot of content that was taken out that were very important to a lot of characters, and I think the only way to do it these days, which they're starting to figure out, is to make a Game of Thrones style version of Harry Potter.
Yeah. I don't know if in my heart I would allow anyone to do those characters differently. I mean, who would take place of Snape? You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
seriously.
Oh,
Someone trying to imitate the like
Potter.
kind of
yeah.
approach, and of course Alan Rickman, rest in peace, he was amazing. But at the same time, even though they're very beloved to me too, whenever the first one came out, I was like 14, 15, and I already read 2 or 3 of the books by the time the first one came out. I think it was 2 of the books. So I was already invested, and most people that I knew who didn't read, who felt that reading was kind of a loser quality, were reading these books, and it was such a worldwide phenomenon. It was a beautiful thing, and sadly, there were some people, which it's their opinion, but there were some parents and such that thought it was kind of like a devil book, so they wouldn't allow their kids to read it, and sadly, those kids are missing out because, I mean, it was about witches and stuff like that, but it had nothing to do with them, dancing around the big old cauldron and then trying to bring the devil up or something like that. No, it was just
Yeah.
your very typical good versus evil. I mean, which is what all people need a little dose of. What they need to do is, first of all, I would love, guys, I would love, love, love to see hours and hours and hours poured over Voldemort's start, beginning, and end. And I think because the books do a very good
Yeah.
job showing everything. They do a very good job showing his life story, and then you, of course, you yearn for more. But that's what any good story will do. But the movies themselves kind of just trailed over it real quick, because there's a lot more to this villain, and even though he's already a great villain, he would go down as being, that villain that in the last 50 years that was so magnetic, and it would have been like that if they would have just included more of his backstory and more of his situation. Because if it would have shown like this whole progression of him deteriorating into Voldemort, that would have been awesome. But it probably would have changed the pacing for everything, and probably, sadly, killed the whole like flow of it. But it's these kind of things that make decisions that would allow a movie to be an Oscar worthy kind of movie, a caliber movie, or to be just a yeah, they did a good job. And which Harry Potter, don't get me wrong, Harry Potter is definitely up there in terms of quality. If I had to say, if someone had to say, hey, let's have an argument about what's better, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter, I want to say, I don't want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
You kind of figure out his like the baseline of his story in the fourth one, right after Harry touches the cup, like the Triwizard Cup. Right when he touches the cup with Cedric
The
Diggory,
porthole.
it's like a port key, is what they call them,
Portkey,
and
yeah.
he goes into this graveyard, and whenever Voldemort becomes this snake-like figure, he tells Harry about his story, and Harry sees the grave of his father. Also,
Oh, I don't remember. I didn't remember that.
in the last one, I'm pretty sure you also find out a lot more to his story, like how he got to Hogwarts, what he's been doing to people, and Professor Slughorn. He That's when he found out about Horcruxes, and that's why he split up in his soul into seven pieces because he said, "Isn't seven the magic number?"
Yeah, these are details that because it's literally been decades, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I still remember these things because I remember that was a very important part because they were both sucked in. Because I remember Harry and Cedric were like, "Hey, we're both from the same school. Let's touch it together so we can kind of have the same glory."
Take it! You saved me! Take it! Together! One, two, three!
And it was a really nice moment. But sadly, I remember that it was Peter Pettigrew. He set the whole thing up to where they would go into the cemetery instead. And he had little baby, ugly looking Voldemort that I remember he put that little nurse thing together. You remember that ugly looking thing that they describe? He's like this little baby looking serpentine version of him, and they took blood from Harry Potter and what was it?
Peter Pettigrew's hand.
Yep, and his head. It's like wow, that's a loyal subject right there. But there's so many cool characters in this whole universe. We won't even be able to talk about them all because it would literally take us 30, 45 minutes just to say all their names. But there's so many that stand out. One thing that was kind of a bummer, but luckily it was a good actor too, but it kind of changed the flow of it was when Richard Harris, aka Dumbledore, passed away in real life. They had to change the actor, and the second actor, Michael Gambon, he was a little bit more. He was a little bit more like and it completely kind of threw me off because if you read the books, it says a lot of times Dumbledore calmly displayed affection towards Harry.
Third, to Mr. Harry Potter, I award Gryffindor House 60 points.
Like whenever he put the Goblet of Fire in, I remember he put his. They pulled his Harry Potter's name out, and then Dumbledore did just, Harry, did you do this? And
Everything is a conspiracy theory.
I protest!
Harry!
I protest!
Harry, did you put your name in a goblet of fire?
No, sir.
You asked one of the oldest students to do it for you?
No, sir.
You're absolutely sure?
Yes, sir.
and Harry's like, jeez, man. And then I remember in the book, it was just like, Harry, was this you?
It was more gentle as to how he approached things. And he does a really good job in parts, but there are parts that don't match his character necessarily as well as, the book describes.
Another part of the Goblet of Fire was, and how Harry got to the graveyard was, I think it was Ludo Bagman Jr., or was it Crouch's son?
I don't remember.
It was
either
Crouch's
Mr.
son, Crouch Jr., yeah.
He got Mad Eye Moody locked in this trunk, and he kind of became Mad Eye Moody
Oh,
with Polyjuice Potion.
yeah.
And Mad Eye Moody was the one who was supposed to put the cup, the Triwizard Cup, into the maze. That's how Harry got to the
Graveyard.
yeah.
They did a really good job in that scene because there's all these different emotions. He went from, okay, let's touch the portkey or the portkey together,
Yeah.
and we're both gonna win, to now I've just watched this person die and I'm going against Voldemort, and he barely gets out alive, brings back Cedric's body, and he's crying, and just the way the dad's reacting, Dumbledore pulls him away, or is it Mad Eye Moody pulls him away? But all this stuff is going on.
AKA Crouch Jr. I don't know his first name.
We call him Crouch Jr. But yeah, there's a lot of dark moments, and I noticed the tone of the books gets way darker throughout the whole thing, and you're thinking, wow, you guys started off this whole story with talking about a kid who was treated like crap by the Dursleys, and then you find out it's gonna get harder than this, man. It's all gonna be harder than this, and you've already lived a hard life. Luckily, that gives him humility for the rest of his adventure. But telling yourself, all I want is for this kid, Harry Potter,
It's Harry Potter.
to be able to have some real family and friends, and then live his life. And sadly, there's this start. You see the Dursleys treat him like crap, and he's living literally under a cupboard. And I mean, they treat him worse than they would treat a dog.
Yeah. And it's worse in the book too.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they chose the father, Vernon. He does such a good job.
Fine day, Sunday. In my opinion, best day of the week. Why is that, Dudley?
There's just a few things I remember in the books where they're a little bit more treacherous than they make it out to be. I would not want to be Harry before he turns 11.
Another thing is, for the first challenge in his life, he has to fight off Professor Quirrell. He wants the Sorcerer's Stone, about to kill Harry, and he's only 11. This is his first year at Hogwarts.
Seriously.
He doesn't even know anything about magic yet.
I've kind of pondered on this. Is it his mother's? Is it because we kind of find out that his father was a little bit of a bully.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he made fun of Snape.
He was a jerk, yeah.
Yeah, and
Snape loved Lily.
Yeah, and they had a very tender relationship. And it makes me not want to attribute Harry's strengths from his dad. It makes me want to say, did he get his powers, the things that he became very good at in wizardry, was that the love, the heart from his mother? Was that?
Yes.
Because
yes.
Obviously there's things that are innate. And was it also the bounce back? I mean, the kind of cursing when he was an infant too from Voldemort.
Yes. So
was it
without even meaning to, when Voldemort tries to kill Harry when he's an infant, the mom jumps in front, and as J.K. Rowling herself has said, love itself is actually a huge and the most powerful form of magic you have. So when she did that, it allowed that to put a protection spell on him. So after she died and he tried to kill Harry, he put a killing curse on him, and it went back and it got him. And that's what started the whole thing. Now, doing that funny enough, gives a little Horcrux right there, and that is now they are now combined, and that is how all this whole thing starts.
One can't live while the other survives. Yeah. That whole part where you find out about the conversations between Dumbledore and Snape, and
yeah, that's a huge part. Whenever you see Snape's memories, and he's about to die because Nagini took him. It's like, take my tears.
I know.
I want you to see
Take
who I
them.
truly am.
Take them.
And
Oh.
whenever Harry finally sees, he's like, wow, this man really, really cared about me.
Yeah, and he played, when you go back and you reread and you watch the movies again, you can see little curious actions that Snape does where you can see that he wasn't just I mean, obviously it's an actor acting, but he had to
Was
kind
also
of play
an actor acting as acting.
Yeah, he was also, he kind of had to pretend that this kid just drove him crazy and he didn't care about him.
Mm-hmm. He hated Harry in a specific way. He did hate him because he looked like his James and everything, but he loved
Yeah.
him because he loved Lily. But yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, you find out that Snape not only is he just another good guy, he has the ultimate sacrifice, which is not only to die, but to die with everyone thinking he's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the few people
Without the
who knew
glory.
without the glory, right? But he goes out without a bang, and I'd imagine they probably have some kind of special remembrance that they gave him after it's all said and done. But it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, geez, you're the guy who gives to charity, but you don't. But you say, I don't tell anyone, don't tell anyone.
So, and is that something that only Dumbledore was in on?
Yeah,
Yes,
only
So,
Dumbledore knew
only
so
about
Dumbledore.
even,
Yep.
because there's that part where McGonagall stands up to him, and I love McGonagall.
Oh yeah, she's so awesome. But
Yeah.
yeah, Snape does that where because back in the day, Snape was actually a bad guy. I mean, he was doing bad things, and he's getting bad information with Lucius and all these people, and he was giving whereabouts and stuff. And then finally, he just started feeling guilty. He started telling Dumbledore about it. So then Dumbledore said, "Okay, now keep on going back there and acting like you're secretly part of this." And then everyone, and I mean everyone, will think that you're a piece of crap, except I'm the only one. And that's the whole reason why they were doing that whole thing with trying to give the Elder Wand to the rightful person. So then whenever Dumbledore dies, it's going to be to where the person who did it was Snape, because then Snape could use it, because it would be his wand, and he's a good guy.
Voldemort thought Snape owned the Elder Wand, so that's why Snape got killed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's why he ended up killing him.
Voldemort told him, "You can't live, or the wand can't be mine."
Which they figure out that Harry says, so because I disarmed Draco, the wand was loyal to you.
Yes. Yeah, you don't have to kill him. It's just you have to beat him in a duel to get it. You can't just steal it and then use it, because that's why Voldemort died at the end, is because he still had no idea that that was technically not his wand, because he didn't earn it the right way. That's whenever he did that thing, but then whenever it happened, it also made Voldemort vulnerable in other ways that he forgot about, and then Harry Potter figured that out, and he got him good. That's why his hand started doing that thing it did, because he's like, ah. Yeah, and you see him do that. You see that do that thing where aggressive take when he goes. Yeah, but it was set up so perfectly, and they need to make a TV show about it. And I get what you're saying, because I grew up with Daniel Radcliffe and Rupert Grint and Emma Watson too, and I get all these people are awesome, but they missed. I mean, I guess realistically, they probably missed 80% of the actual characters and stuff. Like Hagrid was very much used in the books, and Dobby and Creature, all these characters were very much used in the book for very specific purposes. And a lot of these characters, like Sirius Black's brother, who was a Death Eater, and then he realized that Voldemort's a piece of crap. So then he did that. He stole one of his Horcrux and then replaced it, and then told Creature about it. And anyways, you see all these people that are doing whatever they can, including like he actually ended up dying in that weird ocean where all those weird beings are, where they almost got Dumbledore and Harry Potter. He actually died in there, but he did it on purpose to allow Voldemort. So there was a lot of these really good characters that it doesn't do enough talking about in the movies. So when you hear about it in the movies, you're like, okay, cool, whatever, throwaway character. But in the books, it talks about these characters in so much definition that that whenever their sacrifice happens or something like that happens, it's much more empowering, and you can do that with a TV show because you could have 3 episodes about Sirius Black's brother, when in the movie they probably talked about Sirius Black's brother for 15 seconds.
Yeah.
R-A-B.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very, very brief.
Regulus Archibald Black.
It is something like that, though. Yeah, yes, you're onto something.
You know, another super fun thing that I don't remember how much it's mentioned in the books is the Deathly Hallows, the story of the Deathly Hallows, which is essentially like a Mother Goose story in the Harry Potter world.
It's like a folklore almost, it's like a legend, but they're not for sure. But yeah, I remember it's about pretty much like 3 brothers who something happens, they get lost in these woods and they end up meeting death or something like that. Death.
Yeah, they have to cross a river.
Yeah, and no one's ever crossed it before. And they use magic and make a bridge. And then death comes.
It says, you know, you can't just use your magic.
He like grants them gifts or something. And the first brother asks for the Elder Wand, like the most powerful wand in the world. The second brother asks for the
stone, the resurrection stone, yeah.
The third brother, who lived the longest.
What did he say? Because he didn't ask for a cloak. He asked for, I just want to live in peace where death doesn't follow me or something.
He went, and so death could never find him, and that's why he never died.
So how did the Blacks end up with it? Sirius Black. I mean, is it just obviously lots of years later? I don't know.
The Blacks ended up with it?
Dumbledore had one. He had the cloak, and because I remember he gave the cloak to Harry Potter for Christmas.
The Elder Wand, Dumbledore did.
Yep, and Dumbledore, yeah, he had the Elder Wand, and then
Stone, the snitch.
Yes.
I open the close.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good call. So that's why you're here, Kyler.
Oh, yeah.
You're here to remind me of these things because like the movies don't necessarily they go off them too much, but the second Harry Potter, Chamber of Secrets, that was invented. Now this is cool. That was invented by Salazar Slytherin in the first place because he wanted to purge the whole school from mudbloods. So he created that and kind of kept on telling the other founding fathers, I don't want there to be half witches. I need and warlocks. I need them to be purebloods. And they said, no, that's uncool. We take everyone. So he built that, and I remember Lucius Malfoy was trying to get it all opened again. So he put the diary in Ginny's bag, and that's what started another Horcrux.
There's so many, even though the earlier books, you kind of forget about them once you've seen and movies, once you've seen all of them and read all of them, you forget about, because they seem so lighthearted and compared to the rest of them, but they're still very, even Moaning Myrtle, the first time Hermione brews the
Polyjuice potion.
Polyjuice potion. Look at this.
She's all over it. To be honest, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and it's not its fault necessarily. I just miss the whole atmosphere of the school and in that tight-knit area, even though there's so much going on, because I know J.K. Rowling, she's talked a lot about how there's 11 schools in the world, and then she discussed like 7 of us up and with us, including America, and I know that Fantastic Beasts talks about the American one a little bit too, but I love the whole idea of the European one, aka Hogwarts, and when they went to that different place, I thought, well, this doesn't feel Harry Potter to me. It just feels, like a magic movie. And, funny enough, Harry Potter's not in it either, so that kind of makes it weird too. And there's nothing wrong with, that's this part, let's show before, after, or during somewhere else, other important characters too. And that's fine, but it just kind of threw me off, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know that you've not seen those, have you? The Fantastic Beasts?
All I know is that wasn't Newt Scamander one of the founders?
Is that the name of the main character in the movies?
Yeah, Newt, yeah.
So I loved his character. I loved
He was great.
He's so, and then the actor that played him, so just this gentle, odd man that,
Almost like autistic or something like that.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
very. Oh, I loved the movie based on his character, and like you said, it I missed the Hogwarts feel because Harry Potter, that world is so hard to jump in without Hogwarts, and then those characters also, that depth of I mean, the castle and all the turning staircases.
I'm telling you, it's spooky. She knows more about you than you do.
Who doesn't? What's happening?
The staircase has changed, remember?
Rooms, and then just the floating candles, the owls, the screaming male, what are the howlers,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, Keaton, all the foods, and how they probably take a little bit of like truth to these foods, and then they just add a little bit, with a pop of Ginny Cop, and you're like, okay, I don't know, that's not a thing, but it is in this world. So, and then they say, oh, well, Ginny Cop is whenever it's like a root beer, but it's like warm custard, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I don't know why I went with that. I think of Julia Child is what I was thinking of.
Even the creatures, obviously. Speaking of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, that
like a bow chuckle, it's like
bow chuckle. There's so many different things that you think, okay, where did this name come from? How did you come up with this name and the shape of the animal and what it's capable of doing?
Guys.
So it's the one that when Hagrid was in charge of the class and Harry got on one and it flew.
Hippogriff.
A hippogriff.
Buckbeak. That was.
Watch your mouth.
That one's so sad.
Oh yeah, because they kill him. They kill him. Well, no, they save him. They save him.
They went back in time.
Yeah. They went back in time.
Well, that's still fine. They used the time turn or whatever they call that.
Later in the books, Hermione is so cool.
I know.
And you want to be a big, annoying nerd because Hermione is very annoying, especially in the first books. Like she kind of changes.
It's not Wingardium Leviosa. It's Wingardium Leviosa.
But I remember reading the books and thinking, I want to be a nerd like Hermione. I want to read so much that whenever somebody has a question, I always have the answer. That would be so cool. Like, oh yes, I read this in a book once. It was da 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 da. And she always had the answer. She made that type of character somebody that a little girl wants to be. She's just a really big nerd.
Allowed all these people like Hermione to protect Harry Potter, and at the end of the day, you find out that Harry Potter he does not need protecting because blah 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 blah. He's being protected because technically, at the end of the day, he is the chosen one. But when you find out, it's like the reason why he's the chosen one is because of all these people around him that they are literally like dropping like flies to keep him protected. So at the end of the day, he can kill Voldemort. And it's kind of like how, my last podcast, I was talking about the Matrix, and when Neo found out the only way I can kill Agent Smith is to die. It was a humbling honor, whoa, that's like I said, sacrifice is the big one right there.
Oh yeah. And something that I thought of because you mentioned the Matrix, that's also a huge theme in Harry Potter is whenever he realizes that he is the one, Neo, Morpheus goes, he's beginning to believe.
He's beginning to believe.
Which is a huge theme in Harry Potter. In all, when somebody's really powerful, it's because they don't just practice the spells and go through the motions. With all their heart, they believe in themselves for the Patronus charms to work and all of the really difficult.
Think about your happiest thoughts.
Yeah, that was such a fun. I'm so glad that you did it. I was waiting for it to happen, and she's even got her wand here. I'm surprised she hasn't brought it out.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Whose wand do you have?
Harry Potter's.
Oh, of course. Is that the one you made for her?
Yeah.
The wand chooses the wizard.
Yeah, Brianna actually makes little wands, but she uses like hot glue to do hers. So it was,
Oh.
yeah, really cool experience to kind of because when she was kind of like she's like, hey, I'm gonna get my wand. I did out of all these things. I'm like, okay, and then she brings it out and it's actually really well done. I'm like, okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'd like to see one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So, Nick, can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
So, out of all of the characters, who do you think would be your favorite and least favorite?
Okay, good question. It's funny, Kyler. When it comes to movies or books or any form of entertainment that gives me a story, I always like the bad guys. I always like the bad guys. My favorite character in Star Wars is Emperor Palpatine. Good. I mean, this is one of those things that I've always liked the bad guys because at the end of the day, me as a person, I try to lead the exact opposite life as a bad guy, but the bad guy is always fun. So I would say, and like I said, this is one of those things, if they made a 15-hour movie about Voldemort's journey, I would be all in. I find his character to be fascinating, not just because he's a scary villain that looks like a snake and blah, 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 was acted well, but because his character in the books go through so many little journeys that tear more and more of his soul away, and I find that to be extremely fascinating. So for my favorite character, it's going to be easily Tom Riddle. And for my least favorite character, even though it's obviously a very good character in terms of written well, my least favorite character, because she annoyed me so much in such a good way, but Umbridge. I despised Umbridge.
This is a lie. It's not a lie. I saw him. I fought Detention, Mr. Potter.
Oh my gosh.
Me too. She's my least favorite character.
I despise her in real life.
She's so mean.
She acts so well, and the writing for her is done so well that I believe if I saw that woman in real life, I probably would insult her.
And it's funny, the actor who played her, Imelda Stanton, she is a very good actor from England, and she got a call from one of her best friends saying, oh my gosh, I'm reading the Harry Potter books, and I just found the best part that I see you playing. And she goes, oh, that's great. Who is it? And then she found out it was that character, and she was kind of insulted. She's like, well, I mean, how do you see me, this character? And she just, yeah, and I thought it was because she's telling the story herself as an interview, and I'm thinking, I'm seeing this imagery, and I'm like, okay, and then she ends up doing it, and I'm like, all because her friend says, hey, I see this part you should play, and the part, of course, like I said, is the most, and I think in the book, Kyler, do you remember? Do they actually say like toad-like when they describe her? Don't they say something like that, like they like frog-like or something?
Short.
Yeah, she's like short and kind of like stout.
Yeah, that's what you said, short and cold like. So they do. So the book does.
They say it in the book, but not the movie.
Yeah.
Well, no, they wouldn't say like they wouldn't be like this person walking by going, and she looks like a toad, kind of.
It's probably what Ron, Harry, and Hermione are thinking whenever Umbridge comes by. Like, oh, here comes Umbridge. Gotta be good.
We actually get a small glimpse of her really early on during that hearing or whatever's going on earlier in the movie, where we already don't like her. So, yeah, so whenever she's gonna be headmaster, we're like, no.
Well, we don't like her because Harry Potter is telling them that Voldemort is back, and they're all kind of like, no, that can't be. And then she's sitting there going, well, that's obviously a lie. This person here is trying to fool you. And so they're setting us up to like, oh, it's weird because I'm supposed to hate Voldemort the most, but I think I hate you the most.
She, at the end, you find out that she was the one who sent the Dementors to Harry.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Well, guys, I had a great time talking with you today. Thanks for talking about Harry Potter with me.
Confound
Concentrate, Potter.
Hey, and everyone, the Nerd Frenzy Podcast at gmail.com. Go and send me any comments about anything you want to hear or see, or I'll just sing you some music. I don't even care anymore. But Kylar, Keaton, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today. I had a great time, and we'll get an awesome topic very soon. And it's like that's like half the fun right there. It's like, what are we going to talk about? But thanks so much for coming, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. It was fun. Harry Potter.
And I wish you farewell.
On that note, everyone, take care.
Bye.